Anyway, to now get on with the awards. Our first award, we start off with architecture. So the Architecture Writer of the Year, sponsored by Sidell Gibson. And the judges were ebullient. It's the first time Gerald has written that in my script. Both with the standard of entries and how that reflects on the range of projects and issues available to write about in the wider world. Blueprints, Shumi Bose impressed the judges with the skill and thoroughness of her pieces in tackling key issues. Rowan Moore's submission, writing for The Observer, demonstrates an ability to speak in his own calm, considered, authoritative way to a wide series of audiences. He presents complex professional issues in a lucid manner without talking down to his reader. No mean feat. And of course, his Skyline campaign was a great triumph. Ellis Woodman's submissions from the Architect's Journal and the Architectural Review displayed a rigour and commendable application of topical issues. So, David, would you please open the envelope?
So, the winner of the Architecture Writer of the Year is Rowan Moore of The Observer.
So would Ron Sidell come up to present the cheque, please? And now we have Sustainable Journalist of the Year, sponsored by ACOM. And this category provided articles on a wide range of subjects, from colourful site visits to data-led investigative pieces. The entries prove that there continues to be a strong focus on sustainability issues across the trade business press. Jess McCabe, Inside Housing, produced a good mix of profile, investigative and analytical pieces, making this entry a good all-rounder. Stephen Cousins, writing for Construction Manager and RIBA Journal, covered a couple of interesting and challenging projects, bringing out good detail on how the site teams overcome sustainability concerns. While Nick Duxbury of Inside Housing tackled one of the big stories of the year in terms of sustainability in the housing sector. Against strong competition, this year's winner dug into the data to show how government intervention was having a serious impact on efforts to make social homes more energy efficient. David.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Sustainable Writer of the Year is Nick Duxbury of Inside Housing.
Would Ben DeWall of ACOM come up to present the cheque, please? And in that last category, it would have been easy to see Jess McCabe's work in a national newspaper, so the judges have awarded a highly commended to her with the comment she can consider herself to be very unlucky to be only highly commended and not to have actually won. But obviously, the competition was fierce. So now we have Construction Infrastructure Journalist of the Year, sponsored by Arcadis. The judges thought that all the entries demonstrated a very good understanding of a sector that demands good technical mastery and the ability to write authoritatively and succinctly. Ian Withers of Building demonstrated good investigative journalism that showed good initiative in his very revealing, in-depth interview with Peter Rees, former City Planning Officer of the Corporation of London, and now, of course, Professor of Place at UCL. Tom Fitzpatrick of Construction News provided a comprehensive, well-structured and wide-ranging submission, of which 2 were picked up by the national press. One of his articles on contractor performance and establishment of higher standards demonstrated, in the opinion of the judges, business journalism at its best. Vern Pitt, also writing for Building, wrote 3 worthy articles, all well-written and informative, perhaps on 3 subjects that are normally considered a little dry, the judges said, but obviously not in that situation. So, David, who's the winner?
So, the winner of the Construction Infrastructure Writer of the Year is Tom Fitzpatrick of Construction News.
And would Brian Fitzpatrick, Head of Highways, E.C. Harris, to present the cheque? And now we move on to News Reporter of the Year, sponsored by Land Securities. And in a year affected by changes in the built environment press, news journalists made the most of finding and generating opportunities to dig out original stories, some of which were aimed at large, influential organisations, and some of which achieved quick results. Long may that continue. David Parsley of Property Week particularly impressed the judges with his great story that revealed how our largest retailer was creating a new strategy for its land bank to create new homes. They also liked two complementary stories about the huge global investment forces which are impacting on the UK's volatile student housing market. The judges were also impressed with Heather Spur of Insight Housing, particularly her legwork investigating a substantial number of sources to piece together a credible and effective story tackling the problems of disadvantaged people and revealing a significant development in a long-running story about pay for home care work and which could influence changes to national pay levels. The judges liked Richard Waite's of the Architects Journal high-profile story, challenging major institutions, pointing out shortcomings in line with the magazine's long-standing campaigns. The impact of his stories was highly effective and triggered a substantial online response and a policy change at the RIBA. David, who won?
So, ladies and gentlemen, your news reporter of the year is Richard Waite of the Architects Journal.
And would Duncan Bonfield, Director of Corporate Communications, Land Securities, come up to the stage? Feature Writer of the Year, sponsored by URS. Again, the change of ownership in teams during 2013 had an impact on the number of submissions in this category for 2014. Of course, that's a change in ownership in the magazines, not URS. Nevertheless, some extremely good submissions were made. Carl Brown of Inside Housing produced a very good submission and highlighted by the judges was his article on the financial crisis which hit Cosmopolitan and changed the social housing sector forever. The article featured well-assembled facts built into an interesting and informative article. Rakesh Ramchand of the Architects Journal impressed the judges with a range of good articles with unusual topics which he brought to life on the page. And Nick Duxbury of Inside Housing submitted 3 articles of contrasting interest, demonstrating an ability to write with a style that retained the reader's interest. His article on how to spot extremists was unusual as much as it was relevant to its readers. So, David, tell us who the winner was.
And the feature writer of the year is Nick Duxbury, Inside Housing.
So would Leslie Payne, UK Head of Structures, URS, come and present the cheque?
Great. Well done again, Nick.
The Business Financial Journalist of the Year is sponsored by Resolution Property. The range of articles displayed why good journalism requires hard work. It's not sufficient to secure an interview with an industry chief if he or she does not say anything interesting. A critical story might be a good read, but the facts have to be checked and double-checked. A complex investigation requires diligent digging, but it must be written simply if the reader is to understand the twists and turns and get the most out of the article. The best of the pieces submitted this year did exactly that and are deserving winners. So Alistair Heyman of Building showed his range with the interview of an industry head, news of a legal action over a bid, and a feature on what the army can teach builders. All good, meaty subjects, well presented. The amount of hard work put into his stories showed in each of Jack Sidders of Estates Gazette's submissions, Rather than simply revealing that a building had been sold, his stories dig to find details of buyers and the reason of selling, the identity of underbidders and the consequences of the sale. His piece on the proposed sale of the Pinnacle, the takeover of the Gherkin, and his feature on the consortium that bought Lloyd's Chambers all showed how Jack was prepared to dig for a story. Pete Apps of Inside Housing got big stories out of areas that many might dismiss as a small corner of the property market. He made an accounting rule change at a housing association interesting and a worthy front page story for the magazine. He reported how house builders are not using affordable home grants and revealed how the London Mayor had failed to spend government money intended to hold down rents.
And so the winner of Business or Financial Journalist of the Year is Jack Sidders, Estates Gazette.
So would Robert Wolstenholme, Head of UK Investment Resolution Property, come up to present the cheque, please? The Commercial Property Journalist of the Year award is sponsored by Savills Commercial. Here, the judges were impressed by the consistently high standard of all the articles submitted, any one of which could have been the winner. They demonstrated the breadth of journalists' abilities, from complex investigations to simply produce scoops, and from geographical studies to in-depth interviews. Joanna Burke of Estates Gazette submitted articles which included the revelation of a £4,000 million Mayfair deal, an investigation into the mystery bidders in the London property market, and a study of the Soho real estate scene. This last feature added colour and dimension to an area of the capital that many Londoners think they know well, but, as Joanna showed in her piece, has more depth than many realise. She captured the character and the changes taking place in this still vibrant central London location. Although a newcomer to Property Week, the judges thought that Rhiannon Berry had made a big impact in her first year. In April, long before the Scottish independent vote, she worked hard to conduct a survey of how the property industry on both sides of the border felt about the outcome of the vote. She also proved able to find a property angle on a national news story like the Royal Mail privatisation, and showed her ability to obtain interviews with key decision makers such as the City of London's new planning chief. So David, who is the winner in this category?
And so the Commercial Property Writer of the Year is, are you ready? Joanna Burke, Estates Gazette.
Sorry, and the cheque will be presented by Oliver Thurston, Director of Savills.
Well done.
Because of the impact that the judges felt Rhiannon Berry made in her first year at Property Week, they gave her a highly commended in this category. The Housing Residential Journalist of the Year award is sponsored by Wilmot Dixon. As ever, the standard of the entries in this category was extremely high, providing a rich vein of topics and issues to write about, leaving the judges struggling to separate the top places. Robin Wilson of Construction News gets behind the headlines to reveal why builders were undermining government build-to-rent schemes. She then made her own headline by helping expose safety failings on a major PFI scheme, and she has a punchy style matched by an eye for subjects relevant to building industry professionals. Martin Hilditch of Inside Housing burrows through a mass of statistics and emerges with some vital information on the variation in standards of housing bodies. He also expertly shows the chaos managers faced in the aftermath of one of the biggest storms in the UK's history. Hannah Brenton of Property Week has been a leading news hound and analyst in the increasingly important market for rented homes. She was among the first to draw together trends which could see Londoners priced out in the future. Her article on the shape of London in 2025 makes for depressing reading in terms of affordable property availability. She highlights a human angle buried among statistics about the boom in top-end housing. In a return to the era of Downton Abbey, developers are having to provide space for servants in homes aimed for the super-rich.
The Housing Residential Property Writer of the Year is Hannah Brenton of Property Week.
And would Charlie Shearer, Chief Operating Officer, Wilmot Dixon, present the cheque, please? Next is Multimedia Journalist of the Year, sponsored by ACL. The judges saw a good volume of entries across the sector and were pleased to see some experimental entries. The journalists obviously have a real passion for their subjects, and this came across in their work. Multimedia is giving journalists an opportunity to spread their wings and to acquire new skills. Liam Kelly of The Guardian provided good analysis of data and demonstrated excellent knowledge of his market. He is a solid news journalist who writes with the depth of a specialist and the easy accessibility of a generalist. Estates Gazette's Jack Sidder's impressive video delivery clearly demonstrates that this journalist, with a strong print obligation, successfully juggles video, audio, and print media. His use of video is significantly more engaging than that of many in the sector. Will Hurst, now with the Architect's Journal, demonstrated a strong news sense and wasn't afraid to challenge during a video interview. His writing is strong and succinct, relevant and topical. This entry demonstrated his ability across a full range of media.
So the Multimedia Journalist of the Year is Jack Sidder's Estates Gazette.
And would Richard Elwyn, Managing Director of ACL, come up to present the cheque, please?
Congratulations again. Very good.
And now we move on to New Journalist of the Year, incorporating the Young Journalist category, and this is sponsored by the Building Centre. The judges were impressed with the overall high standard of entries in this revised and extended category, with plenty of hard evidence used, including the use of freedom of information requests. The judges particularly commended Inside Housing for once again guiding new journalists joining their team into the skills and principles of journalism. The judges felt that Phineas Harper of the Architectural Review demonstrated with his articles a sophistication and global perspective, while Dawn Foster's Inside Housing submissions showed a deftness of touch allied to an imaginative approach, elegantly using both words and imagery to tell her story. Hannah Brenton, Property Week, showed her ability to set a scene in an entertaining, imaginative and impactful way with her submission. David, can you tell us who won this session, please?
The New Journalist of the Year is Dawn Foster of Inside Housing.
And would Jenny Watt, PR and Marketing Manager of the Building Centre, come up to present the cheque, please? Magazine of the Year, Weekly, is sponsored by Marley Eternit. Given difficult times reflected in publishing events during the last year, the judges found it hard to make a really clear judgment about the overall performance of titles across all outlets. Money is still clearly being invested, however, in making print look good. But some titles are still fairly thin in places, and some have sadly disappeared from print altogether. Interest has been diverted to live events. The challenge is to find ways of connecting with advertisers and sponsors in a way that resonates with readers. All that said, the judges felt that the building press can still produce magazines that are worth buying every week, with comprehensive and telling coverage, and which readers are very lucky to have. That is a major achievement. Building magazine is still looking good, still packing a punch, with standout news features and stories. Building still has a confident heart, with well put together comprehensive analysis when needed. Still the Bible for construction, the judges said. The Architect's Journal is also looking good. Authoritative, campaigning with modern open feel. It isn't afraid to challenge authority and breaches news when it has to. The magazine is stylish, feels good to handle, and is a very good read. Last year's winner, Inside Housing, continues to be a vociferous, campaigning news magazine with a good reach. And if you buy its agenda, you won't want to read anything else. Good, long, meaty features across a range of subjects. So, David, can you tell us who has won the Magazine of the Year in the weekly section?
So the Magazine of the Year weekly is the Architect's Journal.
And would Sarah Harding, Marketing Manager of Marley Eternit, come and present the Marley Eternit Cup?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I should hold the cup. There you are.
Magazine of the Year, non-weekly, is sponsored by Ing Media. The submissions in this category were to a very high standard overall, reflecting a variety of interests. The first year of RIBA Journal's new style has reinforced the view of a revamp that has really worked. The overall quality and range of articles was excellent, and the impact of both text and pictures, as well as its matte paper, was appreciated by the judges. The judges also liked New London Quarterly's very good graphics and design, with a range of articles reflecting the interests of professionals across the industry. The Architectural Review is consistently at or near the top of the tree, meeting the needs of its readership with good articles, pictures, and illustrations. David, can you tell us who has won in this category?
So, the Magazine of the Year non-weekly is RIBA Journal.
And would Robert Pine, Editorial Director, Ing Media, come up to present the certificate? Well, smile.
That's about right.
Now we have Digital Service of the Year, sponsored by IBP. And it was good to see campaigns striving to put user experience at the core. There were good examples of digital-first strategies that are becoming the norm. The ambition of sites is impressive, particularly the fact that many are put together with relatively small resources. CN Plus is an easy-to-use site with considerable quality content that demonstrates a lot of understanding of its sector, with good navigation at its core. This is a site that is worthy of a leader in its sector. When looking at the Guardian's housing network, the judges felt there was a nice blend of news, features, data visualization, and comment, with lots of multimedia and interactivity. This is an intuitive and informative site. The judges were particularly impressed by the Q&A explainers. Dezeen has shown impressive growth from an already large base. It has an original design and is a vibrant site with a wide reach and a constant desire to show something new. David, tell us who has won in this category.
Digital Service of the Year is the Guardian Housing Network.
And would the Honourable Giles Barry, Vice President IBP, come and co-present the certificate?
Congratulations. That's great.
And now we get to the final career-changing category. This is for IBP Journalist of the Year Award, sponsored by Resolution Property. The overall winner is chosen from the winner of the individual categories, so the standard is high in selecting the recipient of this final award. Although that means comparing very different articles across the built environment, the same standards of journalism, which is the benchmark for all nominations and winners, applies, and all provided insightful, well-researched and presented articles that demonstrated the breadth and strength of the media serving the built environment. The challenge is always to think outside the box and write about something new with a construction connection. The 2014 IBP Journalist of the Year did just that in a feature article on how housing professionals are being educated to detect extremists. Basing his... Hang on. Maybe two people wrote about the same subject. Basing his article on a meeting at Wigan Cricket Club, probably not, that's nicely brought the subject of international terror to the parochial base where extremism is manifest. It was an entertaining but important read, showing the journalistic skills of keeping the reader interested to the end and even wanting more. So, now, David, tell us, who is the Journalist of the Year?
So for those of you, if you haven't already guessed, you're not good journalists, are you? For those of you who haven't already guessed, absolutely someone who would not use the phrase thinking outside the box. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Duxbury of Inside Housing.
And would Robert Wolstenholme please present the cheque? Time and you back to Robert.
Well, well done, everybody, particularly the prize winners, and thank you all for coming again. Our industry has always been very well served by its specialist media, which ranks amongst the best in the world for being insightful, analytical, and up to the minute with its content. We've supported the IBP National Journalism Award because we know how important good journalism is to our market. Tonight's awards recognise excellence in a fast-changing media landscape, which creates opportunities and pressures in equal measure. The constant and growing demand for real-time news and in-depth analysis in a competitive market is pushing its journalists hard, we know. Yet the building, architectural and property and housing media consistently produces first-rate content that both informs and often challenges our industry. Tonight's award winners range from newcomers to relative veterans, all of whom bring intelligence, energy and commitment to their work so that we, the reader, can be better informed. It therefore gives me great pleasure to have given the award for the IBP Journalist of the Year Award for this year. And thank you very much indeed for coming, and look forward to seeing you next year.